You're reading a book. At first, it's just words, a story. But as it unfolds, something changes. The main character's struggle starts to feel like your own. Their choices begin to matter to you. Their pain makes you ache. And by the end, it's not just their story anymore. It's yours. Or maybe it's a film, a line in a song, a memory you didn't know you still carried. And suddenly, without warning, you feel something, not as a thought, not as a sensation, but as a quiet depth inside experience itself. People call it the soul. But what is it really? Where does it begin? And how did you come to believe you have one? Long before formal doctrines, someone stood beside a body, still, silent, breathless. It looked the same, but something was gone. They hadn't seen it leave, but they felt the difference. And they knew this wasn't just a body. Something had vanished, something important, and yet that person didn't fully disappear. They returned in dreams. Their voice echoed in memory. Their presence lingered in the living. How do you explain that? Without science, without language for the mind. You reach for the simplest shape that can hold the feeling. Something has left, but it's not erased. It must still be somewhere. That something, you gave it a name. The soul. It wasn't born as a doctrine. It began as a way to make sense of love, loss, fear, and memory. A way to explain why someone gone can still feel close. And once the idea existed, it grew across families, across generations, across cultures. Burials became rituals. Tools and ornaments were placed with the dead, as if they were still going somewhere, as if they would need them. The soul wasn't invented in temples. It was shaped in mourning, in dreams, in the moments your ancestors couldn't explain, but couldn't ignore either. It wasn't shaped by logic. It was shaped by absence, by the quiet space that grief leaves behind. And in that space, between memory and reality, between presence and loss, the soul became real, not as an object out there in the world, but as something that formed in here. In the inner world we were learning to live inside. Now, try something simple. Picture a dolphin. You didn't see one. You didn't hear one. But still, it appears. The curve of its body, the splash of water, the way it moves, alive in your mind in an instant. No one else sees it, but you do. That's what your mind does. It doesn't just receive the world. It builds an experience of the world. It pulls from memory, mixes in imagination, and assembles something vivid enough to feel present. Every moment you live, every sound, every color, every thought isn't only what's happening outside. It's also what your brain is constructing inside. And yet, there's something stranger than the dolphin. You don't just have images and thoughts. You feel like someone is having them, a sense that there is an I in the middle of it all. Not just perception, but a presence, that quiet sense. The feeling that this is happening to me is what many people mean when they say soul. But here's the tension. When neuroscience looks for a single inner observer, it doesn't find a control room. No fixed point, no hidden pilot behind the eyes. What it finds are networks, processing, predicting, reacting. Sensations flicker, memories activate, emotions surge. Thoughts appear and dissolve. The you feel isn't located in one place. It emerges from coordination, from many systems working together so smoothly that it feels like one continuous self. In other words, the brain builds a model, a living self-portrait, stitched from what you remember, what you believe, what you fear, what you value, what you attend to. And that model is powerful because it doesn't feel like a model. It feels like you, not something eternal hiding inside, but something assembled moment by moment from who you were a second ago and what you expect to happen next. So maybe the soul isn't a thing you possess. Maybe it's a felt continuity, the mind's way of holding experience together as one life, lived from one point of view. It feels real because subjectively, it is real. The same way a dream can feel real while you're inside it, even though it isn't the outside world. So perhaps the soul isn't a secret object in the body. Perhaps it's the feeling of being someone, the lived center of experience that emerges when a brain becomes complex enough to model itself. And maybe that's enough. You live in two realities. One is physical, a world of matter and motion. Trees grow, bodies age, fire burns, food nourishes you, gravity pulls you. Stars shine for millions of years before their light reaches your eyes. Animals live in this world too. They sense warmth, avoid danger, protect their young. They feel hunger, they feel pain. But the second reality is different. It's a world made not of atoms, but of meaning. It's where you carry things no microscope can measure. Love, guilt, hope, regret. Memories that are no longer happening, futures that haven't happened yet, questions that may never resolve, and still matter deeply. This second world is not out there. It's built inside a mind, layer by layer, thought by thought, held together by language, by story, by belief. And in that world, the soul makes sense, not as a glowing object or a hidden force, but as a thread of continuity, a way your mind holds together moments, choices, emotions into something that feels whole. When you say, "My soul feels tired," you're not pointing to an organ. You're naming something happening in that second reality. The body responds to hunger, but this inner world responds to meaning, to beauty, to injustice, to the feeling that this matters, even when you can't fully explain why. And here's the strange part. That inner world doesn't float above reality. It reshapes it. We go to war over beliefs. We fall in love with versions of people held in our minds. We build cathedrals, write poems, risk everything, not only for survival, but for invisible things we treat as real. Maybe that's the only place a soul could ever exist. Not as a thing, but as a pattern of experience and meaning, a presence made from the way a life understands itself. For a long time, many were taught something simple. Only humans have souls. Animals, it was said, are instinct. They survive, they reproduce, they feel pain. But they don't carry the inner weight we carry. They don't have a self that asks what it all means. But look closer. There are stories, and there is evidence, that animals carry more than reflex. A dog waits at a door long after footsteps stop coming. Elephants linger around the bones of their dead. Crows remember human faces for years. Some animals even respond to mirrors in ways that suggest more than simple recognition. These aren't proofs of a human-like inner life, but they are signals of memory, emotion, learning, and in some cases, something that looks like self-reference. So ask yourself, if the soul is about feeling, memory, identity, where do you draw the line? Science doesn't find a clean border. The building blocks of emotion and perception in humans have relatives across the animal kingdom, different in form and degree, but not absent. And if we don't find a single soul center in the human brain, it becomes harder to claim one is missing in them. So why did we ever believe it was ours alone? For some, it came from theology, the idea that humans are chosen, set apart, above other creatures, and so only we had souls, while the rest were life without that kind of inner meaning. But not every culture framed it that way. In Hindu traditions, the soul is not limited to humans, and life cycles through forms across time. In many animistic traditions, animals were never other, but participants in the same living world. In some indigenous worldviews, the boundary between human and animal is thinner than modern categories allow. And even if these traditions disagree on details, they share a possibility modern life often forgets: that inner value might not begin and end with us. Maybe the soul isn't a human possession. Maybe it's a condition, something that appears wherever a life becomes aware, even in small, partial, unfamiliar ways. Or maybe it's simpler than that. Maybe we are the ones who ask the question, and in asking it, we turn a feeling into a concept, a name for the lived center of experience. So what is the soul? Maybe it's not something you have. Maybe it's something your mind keeps making without even noticing. A story about who you are, why you matter, what connects you to something larger than yourself. Not a spark from heaven, not a ghost hidden inside the machine, but a mirror shaped by memory, emotion, and imagination, a sense of self held together across time. And when you look into that mirror, the experience feels so vivid, so intimate, so undeniable that you give it a name: soul. You didn't build it to win an argument. You built it to endure grief, to carry love, to survive the fact that bodies end while memory doesn't obey endings. Maybe the soul isn't trapped inside the body or hidden behind the mind. Maybe the soul is what it feels like to be aware, to look back at yourself and wonder what it means to be you. Not a thing made of atoms, but a way attention can hold a life. Science may never point to it on a scan. No equation will circle a region and say, here it is, the soul. But maybe that was never the point. Maybe every time you reflect, or forgive, or love, without a clear reason, you're not proving the soul exists. You're giving shape to the part of experience that made humans start asking in the first place. And maybe that's enough.